And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elex. I'm your host, Coach Elex, and with me, I think, my co host, my wonderful co host, is he here? He may still be in the process of getting one of our dogs, our littlest one, who is screaming. Lisa, who takes care of our dogs, knows exactly what the scream looks like, and he demands to be put in the same room as Steven. So he just went to get him. But Steven the Medium will be joining me, and today we have an amazing guest. Guess who? Steven the Medium is in the house, and we've been talking about, Steven, a
Hello.
few. Oh, there you are. You made
I'm here.
it.
A little out of breath, but I'm here.
And is he calm and collected now?
Yeah, they're having their Pop Tart bites right
Oh
now.
my God! So
Just a
so
little spoiled.
so Stephen, I was telling everyone that I was about to tell everyone that about, I don't know, a month ago or so, you said to me, you have such amazing guests. How come you never have me as a guest?
That's
And
right.
I'm like, that's absolutely right. So let's make it happen. So here you are today, not only my co-host, but you are my guest.
I love it.
And we're going to talk about, so technology changes, life changes, people change, but the question is, does spirit change? So if you are somebody who is curious to learn more about the spirit world, what that means, what it is, and how it can impact you, help you, Stephen has all the answers today. Right,
Yes,
Stephen?
I do. Every answer you ever wanted to know.
Uh, and well, actually, that's life with you. You always have every answer I've wanted to know.
Well,
Because that's why
I
you're an
try.
attorney.
I
Yeah,
try.
you went to training school to always have the answer, to always be right.
Well,
And
no,
what?
I didn't even have to finish the class because I was right. I knew what they were going to teach. So
Yeah, I know. And lucky me, I get to live with somebody who's trained in arguing to be right. I don't even know how I've survived 30 years, but here I am nevertheless.
well, you still have a couple of months to jump off.
April,
Yeah.
April 8th, it's the day. But Stephen, before we get into the conversation, let's talk a little bit about what's going on. I know you have a very busy weekend, so let's tell people what's up.
Well, yesterday, even before this weekend, last night I did a virtual Zoom group, which was just fantastic. 8 people, and I love doing 8 people because everybody gets read, and it was from 6:30 to 8:30. And as I posted on social media, Spirit was on fire. The validations and connections to every person was it was tremendous. It was just crazy. And none of the 8 knew that I surprised them with the whisper in a note. I did a whisper in a note before the session started and read it at the end and then scanned it to everybody along with the recording, which is terrific because people get to see and hear their part of that 2 hours and actually the whole thing because there's always stuff that comes from for other people even though I'm not personally with them. So but it was fantastic. I loved it. I was exhausted. 15 minutes for each person and trying to stay on target and switching and from one person to another and close that door and open this door for this person and make sure that it's not the previous person's spirit. It's a lot, but it was fantastic. It really
So,
was.
so Stephen, for those individuals who may be tuning in for the first time, what is a whisper in a note, and how can they get one if they want one?
So a whisper in a note is a service that I provide. And what I do is I meditate, and after the meditation, or at the end of the meditation, I ask whoever wants to step forward in spirit for the person I'm writing the whisper in a note for. So you can actually go on my website and you can actually select. You don't give me any names, but you can select how the relationship or what the connection is. So if you want a whisper in a note from your dad. You can actually put dad without giving me any names. Or if you're doing it for a gift and you know someone's wants to hear from their mom, you can do that. But if we stick with the dad piece, I would meditate. At the end of the meditation, I would ask for the father to step forward. He stands right next to me, and he starts dictating to me what he wants me to write in the whisper in a note. And the great thing about whisper in a note is that after it's done, after the note is done, I use this software that I scan in the note and I can record myself in this email that goes through. I read every single sentence, every word. I give the emotions of when your dad was speaking. Was he laughing at this point? Was he crying at this point? And we go through the entire note. You get this email, you click on the link and it opens up and you have the note and me on the side in a little circle speaking about the note. It's really amazing. And you can get that on my website at stephenthemedium.com.
stephenthemedium.com. And you can be anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, and you get access to getting a whisper in a note, right?
That's the greatest thing. And you can actually also book a reading, an hour reading, and add on a note also, which is really great.
That's awesome. And I know you have a Halloween thing coming up in Provincetown, Massachusetts.
Halloween, the witches out tonight. Yes, I do. So Monday, 6 o'clock at Water's Edge Cinema, I will be doing a reading for the theater, which is really cool. So
not for the theater. You're going to be
for
doing
the participants in the theater.
Exactly, just not for the theater. I mean, the way you said that, it's like you're just going to talk to the theater on Monday night. People can get tickets, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, maybe that's just something I'm into, buildings, you know? I don't know.
Oh, my God.
Yes, people can go through my website or through Water's Edge. That's where the tickets are actually sold. But it's easy to go through Stephen the Medium because then the link brings you right to their website to purchase tickets. I will be doing readings for, as Elix corrected me, the participants sitting in the audience. And after I'm done, there's going to be a fantastic Halloween movie that's played. So you purchase a ticket, you get readings, and then you get to watch a really amazing Halloween movie on Halloween.
How it doesn't get any better than that.
No, in P-Town and Halloween, or Halloween in P-Town, is just a crazy, fun experience.
And if you're wondering, no, we're not going to be in drag as our Halloween costume in P-Town. So, no, it's not going to happen.
I thought you were going as Elvira.
No? But talking about Halloween, Stephen, we just came back from Disney. And one of the most amazing things we did for the first time is Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party.
Yes.
And that was awesome. How was that for you?
The whole trip. I mean, I know the theme right now is Halloween, but I got to be honest, the entire trip of staying at Animal Kingdom, and if you've seen my social media postings, to the room we stayed in, to walk out into the balcony and just like in front of you grazing is a zebra or a giraffe or any kind of animal that you'd find in the safari was just incredible. And yes, and Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party we just had the greatest time with my cousin and niece and your sister.
And my sister that I haven't seen since she was diagnosed with breast cancer and had a really tough battle with that disease and treatment.
And I'm so glad she was there. And, one thing that I haven't shared, unless you were there, you'd know this, and I haven't shared with anybody, is really mentally I'm like 10 years old. And my cousin Holly got this really great idea for us to be musketeers as outfits. So she got white T-shirts and put all our names in black and black pants, and we had the ears. So we were musketeers from the old Mickey Mouse Club TV show. Somehow, some way, I decided that I was going to. I think we were walking in the park and someone said, "Steven," because my name is written on my T-shirt. So that gave me the brilliant idea that I want to be the one that has the people saying my name the most. But I also have a 17-year-old niece, Morgan, who,
Who's just like you
yeah, well, yeah,
in
and
in
it
the in the
is
younger female
it
version.
is beautiful. I mean,
Yes.
she is beautiful, um, inside and outside. She just is, and takes after her mama Holly, who's also the same as beautiful. But Morgan then wanted to compete, so the two of us went through the park, going up to strangers and saying, "What's my name?" And Stephen and Morgan, or I would say, "Here's my name, Stephen. Don't say her name," and she'd say, "Don't say his name." And it was the funnest night. It just was so
Who
much fun.
won?
I did.
She would argue that she won, but that was a lot of fun. My
It
sister actually,
was.
my sister turned to me and she's like, "Look at Steven. He is just like a little kid. He's rushing. He want to be the first one into every ride. He wants the most candy in his bag." By the way, that honestly, if you've never been to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween, it's a must for anyone, whether you're young, you're older. It's a big Halloween party, and they give you a bag, and they fill it with. We brought how many pieces of candy? Do you think we have like what 400 or 500 pieces of candy?
At least Elix, that that is the greatest thing. It automatically brings you back to a kid because you get your bag, and throughout the entire park, there's just like you see this big orange light that says treats, and you go there and there's barrels of candy that people are working, and you walk through the line and they just throw handfuls of candy. It's crazy.
It was an absolutely amazing experience, and I was exhausted because I spent the whole week in Florida on a business trip, and then Stephen came in Friday, and from Friday through Monday we were nonstop. I felt that I needed a vacation as soon as we landed here back in here in Boston.
Well, we did 3 parks in 2 days.
Yes, and it was incredible. I loved every single moment.
Me too.
And but anyways, anyhow, we gotta. I think it's almost time to take a break, Stephen. And when we come back, we're gonna talk to this amazing guy. He happens to be an attorney. He happens to be a certified medium. He's a clairvoyant. He's certified in the Akashic records. I had to really look at that and remind myself how you pronounce that thing.
You said it right.
Akashic records.
Akashic Records, yes.
And most importantly, he happens to be my amazing, very, very handsome husband. And I could not be happier to have him as a guest. And we're going to talk about, everything around us changes, technology, life, people. But the one question that we have, does spirit change? And to answer that, you're going to have to wait. Stick with us. I can't talk.
Did you forget who I am? I'm Steven.
Steven the Medium. No. Stick with us, and Steven the Medium is going to have the answers that you've been waiting for. So we will be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elex. I'm your host, Coach Elex, and with me, my wonderful co host,
Stephen Frederick is here.
Stephen the Medium. And Stephen the Medium happens to be my wonderful guest today because today we're going to talk about, how everything around us changes, whether it's technology, life, people. But the question is, does spirit change? Now, Uh, years ago, Stephen had no idea that he was connected to the spirit world until later in his life. He made it his life purpose to help people and dedicate his legal career to advocating for juveniles and the elderly. And he's done a fabulous job as an attorney for many, many years 20 years, just about now, right, Stephen?
Yeah, this year's 20 years. Yep.
20 years. As a medium, however, he fulfills his purpose of helping people in a completely different way than being a lawyer. He is on a mission to connect with those in spirit and share messages that offer healing, love, and guidance. And I cannot tell you how freaking very proud I am to have you as my husband and as my partner in life. And I've been in this journey with you, so I clearly know what this has been like. So, Stephen, people are very curious. Welcome, by the way, as a guest
Why,
on
thank
my
you.
show. And people are very curious about spirit and the afterlife. So, tell us, why don't you tell people how you got into being connected to the spirit world?
Oh, I'm just so nervous. I'm not used to radio. Um,
We're going to get to that in a minute. One question at a time.
all right. So, in a nutshell, as you said, Elix, I really had no idea I had any connection whatsoever. Here and there, after my dad passed away, I would get a sign from him, but then I wouldn't get another sign from him maybe several years. So it was never something that I could sort of hang my hat on and say, "Oh my God, I'm special. I have a gift. I can connect to spirit." Had absolutely no idea. As a matter of fact, I think just regular people around me had more dreams of their loved ones than I did. And then in 2010, Elix and I went to see a medium in a larger venue, and the medium started the show and came right up to me. "What is your name?" And I said, "Stephen." And I was so excited to think, "Oh my God, I am going to hear from my father." Because I was 8 years old when he died. And she's just staring at me and Elix, you were sitting right next to me, and she's not
Mm-hmm.
saying anything. And I'm just looking at her like, "Oh, what's going on?" And she said, "You're a psychic and you don't know it." And then she turned around and she walked away. And I sat back down. I'm like, "What was that? Like, where's my reading?" And she continued the entire 2 hours and came back to me once to tell me my grandmother was standing next to me, but that was it. And Elix, I don't know, Elix, was a couple of minutes into it. You just tapped me and said, "Did you hear what she said?" And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Yeah, I did."
Yes.
I said, "I think she's not a psychic. She's psycho because I am not a psychic. Seriously." So we at the end of the show, we were gonna wait to speak to her, but people were talking to her, so we left and went home. And the next day I emailed her and she apologized and said she hated that she did that, and she left me with just, "You're a psychic and don't know it." And the switch went up as soon as she told me, and that was 2010. 2010 to 2012, the anxiety started building and building. I still didn't have anything going on. Just I had this energy flow in me that I didn't know how to handle. And thankfully, 2012 at Christmas time, Elix, you bought me a 16-week home study to become a certified medium, and I flew through that class. As a matter of fact, the instructor, who is in Arizona, who became my mentor, Carol Nicholson, who is the best. If you ever look her up, you'll love her. She said to me, "I've never had somebody go through this course this fast." And there was a quiz at the end of the class to become certified. And I said, "I'm ready." And I did it. And everything just started progressively moving. And that's where I am now.
And here you are now talking to hundreds of people, doing big shows in big venues, and really connecting people to their loved ones in spirit. Now, Stephen, when we were planning the show, I said to you, what would you want the show to be called? And you came up with, technology changes, life changes, people change, but the question is, does spirit change? Why do you think it's important to sort of highlight and have that as a question for our
Well,
audience?
I think it's really important because there's just so many people. A majority of people, at least the people I've been experienced with, will always come up to me, whether it's a private Zoom reading, whether it's a group reading in person, and say to me, they just wish I could do what you do. Or how, Stephen, what tips can you give me to be able to connect to spirit? And I think it's I think why I sort of phrased the title that way is that the first three pieces, the technology and lives and people, actually um, they have such a big effect on spirit. And when I say, does spirit change? Spirit doesn't necessarily change, but because of the first three that are prior to that, in that statement, those three are changing so much that our connection to spirit is changing. In other words, right now, there are so many more energy pockets and frequencies that we never had before, because let's just stick with the first one, technology is it's amazing, right? It's amazing what we've got now, even compared to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But because of that, it has just created so many different energy frequencies that it is more difficult to be able to connect with spirit, because you've got to be on the same frequency to be able to, connect to spirit, to feel signs, to feel them, to see a vision, to hear them. You have to be in the same frequency. And now I think 50 years ago, and this is, again, I gather this from my readings in spirit, 50 years ago, I think it was, you meditate and you connect, and there's just, it's sort of like two balls. It's our ball of energy and spirit's ball of energy, and you just sort of look at that, the spirit's ball, and you just try to draw a line right to it, and you get there, and it's a great thing. You can get connections and again, signs. Now that we're coming from not just one ball, spirit is further out, because there's so many frequencies and balls in between, that now it's like barriers that you've got to figure out. It's sort of like a game. Okay, let me move my frequency here. Well, I'm closer to spirit, but I can't see them yet, and so that means I got to move my frequency again. And that's, and how you do that is just being in the present, being mindful, being positive, taking care of your body. There's a lot of different things.
Now, as almost like a follow up to that question, because again, living with you and learning a lot about spirit along the way, one of the things I often hear is people coming to you and asking you things like, I didn't have a good relationship with my father or with my mom, or they were upset, or they were mean, or whatever that was, whatever they were in here on earth. And one of the things that you often tell people is that when people go into spirit, they leave all of that stuff behind. So in that essence, is that a change from what we know, from how we know them?
Well, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you mean from when they're here, like when we're here in the physical world versus spirit?
Yeah, holding on
Yes.
to that
Yeah.
human stuff versus
Yes.
not.
Yeah, and again, this comes from my experience, the thousands of readings that I've been doing. And again, I always say that I learn every single day from spirit, but absolutely, that's one of the greatest things that happens when we're all going to get there, when we get into spirit, is that all, I call it the earthly junk, that anger, that jealousy, sadness, whatever you have, because that really is those emotions or those feelings are really part of our personality that was created here on the earth. It has nothing to do with our souls, right? Our souls are infinite, they keep going. So then when we lose that vehicle, this body, we get reunited with our soul. Our soul doesn't have that. Our soul is just coming from the most purest love. There's no fear. There's nothing except love and purity and just wanting the best when we get there, looking down to the loved ones that we've left, because obviously we still have those kind of feelings if we're here and we're dealing with stuff. So absolutely. And the change is phenomenal. I mean, it's, you know, even if you Google Elix, or you go on YouTube and you put the subject of near death experiences, again, the majority of people, and I'm sure you probably have heard this, and people, the listeners have heard this, when people do have those near death experiences and go to the white light, and a lot of people talk about the white light, I would say the majority of people always say when they're told they got to go back, I do not want to go back. Now imagine that.
Yes.
I mean, from our perspectives, like, oh my God, I want to come back. I don't want to. I want to
We
stay
don't
here.
we don't want to die, right?
Exactly. I don't want to die. I'm afraid of death. And when we get there, it's just that quick sort of experience that, you know, there's no time, essence, and spirit. So, you know, most people, even when they have near death experiences, they can't explain how long it was, because there's really no such thing as time, or it's different there. But for them, or majority of people saying, I do not want to go back. I don't. And remember, imagine if it was you, Elix, and something happened to you and you had the same experience. Here, our perspective on the earth is like, what do you mean you're my husband? We're 30 years. I mean, if it was me, I'd want to come back to you. How could you do that to me? How could you want to leave and not come back? And I think that's the most fascinating thing about what I've heard from Spirit, is that it's home when we get there. And because we don't have that earthly junk, when we're there, even if you're coming back for that period of time, you know you're going to be reunited. You know you want the people that you left with you. That's home. It's a great thing. It's an amazing thing.
You know, I love I hear this time and time again. Again, we live together, we share, you know, this experience together, and I never ever get tired of listening to this, because it's so fascinating to me, and I know it's fascinating to everyone listening. But we do have to take a break, so hang on there, and Stephen, stick with us, and we'll be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my co host.
Stephen the medium, and so much more.
and so much more. And he happens to be my amazing guest today because today we are having a conversation about the spirit world, and we have an expert in that subject matter, which is Stephen, who happens to be my husband, an attorney, and also a medium. Now, Stephen, I know you're on a mission to provide healing, validation, guidance from those in spirit. How do you go about your mission?
Well, that's an interesting question because I think a lot of people, a lot of mediums have their own perspective, and I really just default to spirit. The great thing about this interview is that you're part of it, right? You experience it, as you mentioned, Delik. So besides doing like I did last night, I did a group virtual Zoom reading of 8 people, which I loved, and everybody got read. And the events that I'm doing this weekend, next weekend, private readings. When I am just out in public, there's many times that we're out in public and we could be in the supermarket and waiting for our honey ham to be cut for the dogs, and I just can looking at this woman in here next to me. It's her mom. Please just tell her she's having a difficult time. It's my anniversary, and I will share that with them. I think for me or any other medium that does that, there's a risk in that because you never really know how you're going to be received. But knock on wood, I would say, I honestly will say maybe one or two of all the times I've done this have just said, I'm not interested. And that's certainly their right. Whatever the case may be and why they want that, that's up to them. But I've been blessed because most people, I was in CVS and the woman in front of me, at the pharmacy, I started reading her. And as a matter of fact, a couple of minutes in, I just turned to people behind. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm stopping the line. And the 2 women behind me said, stop in the line, stay here, we're next. Like, we want to be read. It's pretty cool.
And that actually happens most frequently.
It does.
Than the latter. But people do come to you because they want healing. What kind of healing do you provide for them?
A great way to answer that, Elix, is that I don't remember where this group was. I was doing a group reading. I can't remember. It was a bigger group. I think it was maybe in Rhode Island. And when I got to this one woman, her mother came through, and ultimately I found out with the mother's validations that there was a rift that happened between the person I was reading, the daughter, and the mother. And the daughter for 30 years has held on to this guilt of, I wasn't speaking to my mother. She died of a heart attack. I'm left with that. I'm left with never closing this gap, resolving this issue, and I'm just left and cannot. It's impossible to change this because she's dead. She's gone. And the validations that the mom gave were, she was in tears, and I'm sure you were there, Elix. You may remember it, but she was, or maybe it was in Florida. I can't remember. But in any case, she hugged me and just said she felt the burden that has been on her back for 30 years just lift off her back. And she released the burden that wasn't hers to hold on to, but unfortunately she held on to it for 30 years.
Wow. And that again, it's something that we see time and time again. Now, Stephen, a lot of people may be listening to you, and there may be some who say, I'm connected. I know I'm connected, but I have no idea how to get help in expanding that connection. There's others who may say, I am definitely not connected. I have no idea, no connection to spirit. What would you say to both of those individuals?
Well, for the latter, wait, hold on one second.
I think that what he's distracted is one of our little children,
I'm
is
sorry about that.
request. Is that our little boy requesting you his attention?
Yes, and yeah, he's next to me crying, so I had to grab him. I'm sorry about that. Well, for the latter, I would tell that person that everybody's intuitive, right? So you are connected, whether you know it or not. And when I teach class or talk to people about spirit, I always say it's never about spirit giving us signs. It's always about us being in a place to see the signs, receive the signs, feel the signs. That's what it's about. For the first one, I would say, and I experienced this with someone who feels they're connected, but they just don't know where to go with it. I had that experience later in life. And when I found out I was a medium, I didn't have anybody to speak to. Before you gave me that class, I was, going crazy with this anxiety and who do I talk to? Nobody understands this. So when I put my classes together that you can actually purchase on my website, and I just finished the third one, it's called A Very Different Mediumship Class, because what I realized doing these readings and stuff that I've learned is that again, I think it goes back to the title, Elix, to answer the question about, technology changes, people change, lives change, does spirit change? Is that for me anyway, and when I put these classes together, I realized that you can't use the same classes that we were using 20, 30, 40 years ago, even maybe 10 years ago, because things have changed here, which then makes it change the connection to spirit. And the classes that I put together are really more focused on intention and energy, but more focused on us, because it's really where the barrier is with us. So somebody who says, I think I'm connected, what do I do? My first reaction would be, I love the fact that you're connected. I love it. It gets me very excited. And secondly, just reference a training, whether it's a book or a class. Of course, I love when people take my classes. That's what I would give them. That's sort of like the direction I would send them. But I would start off, and this happened to me in my experience, I would start off by validating them, because when I was in that position, I spoke to this. I had a medium reading, and I spoke to the medium, and she dismissed me. Oh yeah, everything's changing in the energy. Everything's changing in the world. Everyone's getting something, and she left, and I just thought, that's my answer. So I'm just another sort of
Dismissed.
person.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that if you do speak to me, it's the number one thing I always do, because I do get excited, but validate that you've got to make sure that the fact that you feel you're connected is already such a huge step. And I love the validation to your loved one saying, yeah, I can feel you. I love it.
But what about, what if there's somebody listening and they're thinking, well, I don't have any connections to the spirit world, but I'm still curious about that class. Is that a class for them?
Absolutely, because there's different level of classes that I have on my website, and there's an introductory class, which is whether you're the former or the latter. The example you just said, whether I think I'm connected, I just don't know what to do with it, or I'm not connected at all, but I'm interested. It's the same. It's the same routine, and those two people would get as much as each other would get in that class, because it is an introductory. It's the knowledge is where you start with spirit, the knowledge that even sometimes the terminology, but just the way spirit brings and gives signs. Understanding that it just makes you take leaps and bounds in connecting to spirit, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Now, let me go back to grief, because I know I've heard you talk about grief and how actually grief can block somebody from connecting to spirit. So if somebody is dealing with a recent loss and the grieving is so intense, how can you help them move past that loss and that grief so that they can uh, create that opening and that connection to their loved ones in spirit now?
Well, it's a great question, Elix, and it's something that has changed over the years with me. And I think I adopted what everybody says, that, if you're grieving, you have like walls around you, so spirit can't get to you, you can't get to them. And I think at some level that's correct. I think though it's more about what the grieving or the sadness does is it brings you into a different energy pocket. So again, what I explained earlier, you're not anywhere near where the circuit, the frequency where spirit is. That's the issue. And I guess a great example is last year on my mom's first anniversary of death. I woke up in the morning and said, I am not taking 1 second to be sad, because if I take in the entire day, say I take, it sort of accumulates to an hour or 30 minutes of being sad and just missing my mom. That's 30 minutes or an hour. I am unable to connect with her because I have taken myself out of the frequency where she is. She can't get to me, I can't get to her. So to explain that to people and understand that, I understand the grieving process, and we're all individuals and we all grieve differently. But maybe if say it is an anniversary and it's very difficult, or it's the holidays, just see if you can even take maybe a half hour or an hour out of your day and just remove yourself from that sadness. Just remove yourself in the sense that you have the understanding that when you're in that sadness, you can't feel your mom. And let's just use my example of my mom. That's what you want, right? What's the best feeling in the world is if you're missing your mother and you're sad and she's in spirit. And if you get a sign from her, that's going to make you feel so much better. So I try to just give maybe even little installments and just say, just try it. Just try to start thinking with, or go get out in nature. Take a walk and just think of something happy. If you love the beach, start there. Put yourself in your mind's eye on the beach, on like you're having the best time, and then grab that whole happiness piece, and then directly say, "Ma, I'm here." And that's when she can connect with you. That will happen, and then every time you do that, it gets you better. It gets you quicker, or in a better place out on a per day. It gets you out of the grief, so it just puts you in a better place to be able to connect with your loved ones.
And you start seeing the signs.
Yeah, of course, and seeing them, feeling them, and knowing that your mom's there. And listen, when you lose someone, if you had the capability of just every day for 1 minute going in your closet, shutting the door, and your mother comes physically and in there for, you got 1 minute, and you get to say whatever you want to her. She gets to say whatever she wants to you. You get to hug her, you get to kiss her, and then she's gone. If you could do that, and when you walk out of that closet, how are you feeling? Incredible.
Amazing.
How are you feeling before you go into the closet? Incredible. Like, oh my God, I'm going to see my mother. That's what signs do.
Wow. Well, Stephen, we do have to take another break, but when we come back, I want to talk to you about the very new and exciting things that I know are happening. So stick with us. We'll be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Helix. I'm your host, Coach Helix. With me, my wonderful co host,
Stephen the Medium.
Stephen the Medium, who is an attorney and happens to be my husband. And today, he happens to be my amazing guest. And we're talking, of
Yay.
course, about the spirit world. We're learning a lot about the spirit world, and we have no other than an expert in the subject matter, Stephen the Medium. Stephen, what does spirit wants us to know?
I love the question, Elix, because, when I was putting my class together, I Googled, I wanted to do a section on spirit's perspective. So I went on Google and asked that and had a lot of answers, nothing that was even close to spirit's perspective. And I get it because we're not in spirit. But from, again, my readings and asking spirit, I will tell you, in the class, if I remember the bullet points, I think that the main thing spirit wants us to know is that we will experience something incredible and amazing after death, that life continues. Don't be afraid of death. We will all be reunited after we die. I'm still with you. This is just sort of like a collaboration that I got from them. But I'll tell you, and what I put in my class is the most important one is you can't come here until you complete your assignment, which I think is fascinating, because each one of us are so gifted and so special, and we just have to hopefully in our life figure that out and get in tuned with our souls. And it's you know what, Elix, if you were to ask me, like, what's one tip I could give people, I would tell you that there's something I'm working on that I have not even shared with you, but I titled it "You Have to Look In to Feel Out." And it's something that I don't know if I'm doing like a seminar on it or a class on it, but what I mean by you have to look in to feel out, meaning that if you want to connect with spirit, you've got to start with you looking in and doing an inventory. And I guess the greatest example to sort of prove that is that I talked about this in my class, is that for how many years I had absolutely no idea I was a medium, like zero. And then the light switch went on when the medium told me I was a psychic. So in hindsight, after 7-8 years of looking at where I've come from, I understand that the gift, you can't lose the gift, right? It's there with you. Even if you don't use it, it will just stay dormant. You can't get rid of it. It's always there. It's a gift. You're given it, just like every one of us has some kind of gift. But what really hit me hard was, oh my God, it was because of me, nothing else. It was because I wasn't the right version of Stephen to be able to accept that gift, understand that gift, acknowledge that gift. And it was because of all the stuff, we get back to the earthly junk, I was dealing with, starting from my father committing suicide when I was 8 years old. All of that just covered the spirit connection. I needed to take inventory and stop letting that go. And as the years went on and I went through therapy because of, my dad and whatnot, I was able to remove sort of the toxins in me and the negative stuff, which opened up, you always have to be completely filled, as the law of attraction says. And I was able to start filling up the good stuff, and it kept accumulating and accumulating until all of a sudden, Stephen's the version he needs to be to understand you're a medium, and spirit's like, it's time, he's ready, let's go to him. So if you're thinking, I just want to connect, I want more signs. Again, it's not about spirit giving us the signs. You get signs every single day. Take an inventory of what you're holding on to. And I'm telling you, even if you start small and you start losing just some of the negativity or some of the toxins that you sometimes people don't even want to go there. No, I don't have anything. I'm not holding on to anything. We're all holding on to something. It opens the door a little more and a little more to be able to connect with spirit.
That is such a great point of view, Stephen. In talking about making room for new and exciting things, you just finished your last radio show, Through the Static, last Wednesday.
Yes.
So what's ahead? why do you need to make room for bigger and better?
Hawaii, just to sit on the beach and, you know.
I,
well,
I think I think your purpose is slightly bigger than just Hawaii.
you know,
Just slightly bigger than sitting on the beach. Just saying.
well, it is, and you know, one of the things I talked about because everyone was like just blasting me with comments. Why? We love the show. We love you and Elix. I'm through the static, and I just I realized that after 4+ years that I wanted to keep moving forward. And I know based on what I've experienced and learned from Spirit and the work that I've done that you have to commit. You have to commit. You can't hang on to something. It's like, well, I'm going to hang on to my boyfriend. I'm not really, he's not the one for me, I don't think, but I'll hang on to him because it's comfortable and it's familiar until someone else comes along. That other person's never going to come along. So I knew that I needed to make a decision. It would have been very easy. I loved doing the show. It'd be very easy for me to keep it and keep moving, and looking for opportunities. But that's just not the way the universe, for me anyway, works. And I needed just to commit to say, I'm closing this door to be able to open another door. And there's a lot of stuff that I'm working on and a lot of amazing opportunities that are coming that I'm really, really excited about.
And one of those amazing opportunities is called Steelix.
Yes.
Tell people about Steelix.
So Steelix is something that we started. We combined mine and Elix's name, and we have 4 episodes right now. That it's crazy, it's funny, it's informative. It's just the life of me and Elix, and from him coming from Puerto Rico, from me here, us meeting, his job, my job, how everything has just worked over the years and where we're at. And it's just something that I also want to really focus on, more of my time on Steelix.
Steelix the series, and you can find Steelix the series on Stephen the Medium's YouTube channel, and just look up for Steelix. But I also think, Stephen, that one of the things we're exploring is doing more of this work together. There's a whole lot of synergy between what you do and what I do, and we've noticed that people really enjoy listening to the two of us, our antics, and at some point we may even do a retreat where we invite people, we take people to these fancy place, and we'll come up with some great events, and that they get to be with both of us.
Yeah, you know what? When you connect with your soul and you get out of your personality, I came up with a phrase that I use, that you need to step out of your body so that you step out and you're looking at the back of your head. You're looking at the back of your body, so you're now the space in between yourself as the soul and the personality. And when you get there and you start seeing and start questioning and being curious about life and what you're doing here, is when everything, it's the magic time, I call it. It's when everything starts falling into place, and you immediately or quickly get to trust and know that the opportunities are going to be endless when you're in that place.
Yeah, and you mentioned 2 things that sort of got my attention. One of them is when you were talking about Spirit, telling you that we all have a purpose, and when our assignment, when our assignment is complete, then we get to go into Spirit. Not any time before that. But what that leaves me with, Stephen, is that we all have purpose. There's a reason, and we want to do whatever we can to connect with that, so that we're living a purposeful or purpose-filled life.
And that's for everybody. Everybody who's listening to this, you got the same thing. You've got your unique gift, and what you've been given. Every single one of us has it. It's just that not every single one of us figures it out.
Yeah. And then the other thing that you said that, again, it's really insightful, is that we got to practice getting uncomfortable, because staying comfortable keeps us in the same place.
Yes.
And nothing happens in the comfort zone. We do have to practice getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. That's where the magic happens.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's what you've been doing, and it's fascinating watching you, and it's fascinating being part of this journey with you. So, Stephen, we're getting to the top of the hour. Tell people how they can get a hold of you, how they can find more about your courses, the events. I know we have another event that we haven't talked about, the fundraiser event on November 6th. So, tell people all of the above.
So you can find all that information by going to stephenthemedium.com, my website. And yeah, I talked about the P-Town event on October 31st, but November 6th, I'm doing a fundraiser in Taunton at Forest Family Fun Center, which the money goes to the Silver City Skating Club. It's just to help um, whether minors or adults, with the expenses of competitions in skating. And who doesn't love roller skating? But check out my website because there's always stuff going on and new stuff going on. And again, you can purchase classes, you can book a reading with me, you can book a whisper and a note. So I just landed a new office in New Bedford. So with that said, there's going to be a lot of great stuff. So the website's the best place to see everything that is going on.
And that's for in person. But again, no matter where you are in the world, Stephen is worldwide. You can absolutely make an appointment and do a reading because he
Virtually.
has virtual access to Zoom. So one last question, Stephen. What do you feel has been the most exciting thing that has happened to you since experiencing being a medium?
The learning that has been the observing in real time things that I want to change for the better, and in forgiveness, because they go hand in hand. You can't move forward without both of those. So just in just I think what most people, a lot of women never do. So you listen to me. It's just not giving yourself credit, not giving yourself love, always being concerned about helping other people and kids and husbands and everybody else, and just not giving themselves love and that pat on the back and saying, "Wow, look what I do every day." So
Yeah.
that.
Well, I am so proud of you, and I am so excited and so proud to be part of this journey with you, and I can't wait to see where we go together. Thank you for being my guest, and you're going to continue to be part of the show because you co-host the show with me every week.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
was a good guest.
you were an amazing guest. I think you know what I'm going to do, Mark. I think we're going to give Steven the Golden Buzzer.
Yes,
It's just like the American. What is that show? American
America's Got
Got Talent. Yeah,
America's Got Talent, right?
Bosser, you get the golden bosser, so
Thank
you
you.
you go directly to the finals. But Stephen, thank you for being with us. And anyone, if you want to get a hold of me or if you want to stay connected with me, you just simply look me up at Coach Elex anywhere on social media. So hope everyone have a wonderful rest of the week, and we will see you again next week. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye bye.